This blew my mind. I did not know this. What year do you think women's equal rights were enshrined in the U.S. Constitution?
I am always so off on these years.
That's okay. Just
enshrined in the Constitution.
Yeah, like that.
Like an amendment?
There was an amendment made that ensured like women's equal rights.
Okay.
In comparison to men.
Like maybe in the 70s.
Okay. It never has been. Our rights are not protected in the Constitution. Listen.
It's just legislation. It's not constitutional.
Yes, it's not protected, so it can be
taken
away.
Right, because then a Supreme Court ruling could strike it as unconstitutional.
Exactly, which they did with like Roe v. Wade. And everybody thinks this equal rights thing is all about RVW. It's not, because we don't. The 14th Amendment only expressly guarantees equal rights in that men are equal.
Right. So
not women explicitly.
So it's race. It's men regardless of race.
Yes.
Is what that legally says.
Yes.
Then.
Now there's
Why
different.
Is that on the news?
This amendment, which was the Equals Rights Amendment, was proposed in 1923.
Yeah, women's suffrage movement in the 20s.
Yes. So it garnered almost immediately 30 of the 38 states, like within the first year, needed to ratify it into an amendment, ratify it, right?
Yes.
But could never get to that 38 number. And the deadline to get to that 38 number was in the early 80s. And it came back up for vote, like in like a legislative way, to try to get, basically to try to rule that deadline doesn't count.
Okay.
Recently, within the last decade, they garnered enough state support.
Thank God.
Thank goodness, right? Oh, but however, that stupid deadline that it has to be ratified within a certain period of time from the proposal has passed from the 80s. So they're saying it doesn't count.
Who is?
They support that. The government. Republicans specifically. It went up for a vote again in 2023. They needed 8 Republicans.
Yeah.
They couldn't get them. They could only get 2, and they're both female. To enshrine equal rights despite gender. So in 1982 was the deadline. There was 15 states whose legislators did not ratify the Equals Right Amendment by the 1982 deadline. Those states were Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Nevada, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Utah, and Virginia.
How the heck did Illinois not do that?
Illinois was one of the more recent ones.
With Chicago?
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing to me.
Also, what's worse is states have tried to retract their ratification.
What? Dude, what in the world? You think it's money? I think there's money, and there's invested parties that have a lot of money that don't want that to be the thing, because then somehow it affects their economics or their business structures or their
equal rights would mean equal opportunity, equal resource, equal responsibilities, regardless of gender. But the truth is that you can still technically be discriminated against. Like, for example, female farmers are discriminated against. They have a very difficult time getting any loans for their farms, even through government programs. So if this was to pass, that would for sure be considered discriminatory. Not like, how do you define that? There's a difference between breaking a law and breaking the Constitution.
Like, I don't get it. If it's already codified into some type of law, why would you be opposed for it becoming an amendment?
Listen to this. On January 27, 2020, Virginia became the 38th state. So it took until 2020 for them to get 38 states to say, yes, women should be explicitly mentioned in the Constitution.
Were they trying this whole time, or was it like intermittently trying to get states?
The feminist movement's been trying this whole dang time.
Why would you not vote yes?
I mean, we become surprised and surprised again how much women are disliked. To where it's not surprising anymore. But it was surprising to me, this Constitution thing.
Dude.
Because that's our government. That's who's running my country that I live in. There wasn't enough states until 2020 who believed that woman, should be included as having equal rights and being equal amongst everybody else in Congress in 2023, where they tried to pass this again.
It didn't pass.
No. And that's when they needed eight Republicans and only 2. They could only get 2. Dude. So it didn't pass, and now it's dead again.
What? Why would Republican... I still don't get the why. Why not? Aren't amendments usually short?
Women have been fighting for these rights. Bank account we've talked about before.
Yeah.
1972. What's interesting is, do you know how old Trump was in 1972?
20-something?
26 years old. So he was 25, and women still couldn't have a bank account.
Right.
Biden was 30. Kamala was 8. The average age of Congress was 10 at that time, and the average age of the Senate was 16 at that time.
What do you mean?
Meaning, if you take the average age of the Senate,
like the people
currently, yes. If you take that average
they were
age,
10 at the time.
They were been 10 at that time.
Got it.
How about to buy a home? 1974 was when they no longer needed a male co-signer. Trump was 28, Biden was 32, Kamala was 10, Congress was 12, Senate was 18. Women were getting paid 60% less than men for the same job in 1970. That's when Trump was 24 and Biden was 28. This is the culture they're growing up in.
Yeah.
No wonder why the ERA hasn't passed. Like, the oldest member of the Senate is 91.
We often think of the age of people in office, but like, to your point, we don't often think about the environment they grew up in and how different it is from now.
Yes.
And it's not just their cognitive ability or not knowing technology now.
Yeah.
It's also like you were raised and came into like maturity in your prime in a different world and a different time. Yeah. And we need people that are more in touch, because not just because of the present, because when they were raised and when they came of age and stuff. Because like all that wiring that's done to you as a kid and as an adolescent, like that stays with you. And if you're wired that, women make 60% less than men, and that whole idea of women inferiority is just like infused in you as a kid and as an adolescent, unless you do some work when you're older to grow out of it, like that's still in you somewhere, and you're 80-something years old and in Congress.
Right. What's the oldest person you'd allow to babysit our child?
Oh.
That you would trust that their cognitive capacities could keep our child.
Maybe like 75?
Trump is older than that.
Isn't Trump like 80, 81?
Well, he was born in 1946.
So he's 78.